And let's move right along here. I'm really excited to introduce Christine VALLAURE to the stage because it's really a topic that is close to my heart, which is solo work, like solopreneurship or freelancing, however you want to look at this. Christine is the founder of moonlearning.io, which is a UX, UI design, and Figma learning platform where design meets code. She's also the author of thesolo.io, which is a practical guide to building and growing digital products as a company of one. And she's also a regular speaker at design and tech conferences. Now, she has an incredible journey where she had to step away for a bit. And instead of chasing growth, she chose to stay small, focusing on organic growth, profitability, and independence. And in that process, she found freedom, joy, and success by building and automating a UI Figma learning platform as a company of just one. So with today's tools, automation, and AI, staying a company of one isn't just possible. It can be a really smart thing. And that's what Christine is going to walk us through. So please welcome Christine to the stage.
Hello, thank you so much.
Oh, so great to have you here. I'm really excited about this. Like I said, I'm a solopreneur myself, and this is going to, just like be speaking my love language. So I'm really excited.
Lovely. Fantastic. Thank you. I'll be diving right in. I'm not sure if you can put here we go with my slides. Okay, so welcome everybody. So as Silke already said, this is a little strange because usually there's an audience, and I gave this talk in front of an audience, so I do hope you laugh at the jokes just by yourself a little bit. So what I want to tell you about, let me just make sure your slides work. Here we go. So I'm Christine, and as said, I run an online learning platform called Moon Learning, and what I do there is I talk about UI design, Figma, and it's a little niche like how to align all of these things with code. And it's pretty straightforward. It's an online platform. You sign in, you get a membership, and then you can access all the pre-recorded courses and all the preset Figma files in your own time and to your own liking. And so you can study UI design, Figma, UX, and all of these things to your own skill level and time. And it really started out as a little pet project like 4 or 5 years ago. And by now it's grown nicely. And so there are a few thousand students across the globe. And before I dive in deeper, I want to show you a little bit about the headquarters because this has all grown nicely. So that was already given away a little bit because it looks exactly like this. These are my headquarters. There is a recording studio. This is the design team. This is my development team, my post-production, my client service, accounting, and strategy and marketing. There's also great perks. So you can always bring your family to work whenever you want. And also during pandemics, your spouses will be right there with you. So you might have guessed it. It's really not some fancy big startup. And this is the desk I'm sitting at right now. It's small. There is no ambient light. I don't even have the lovely decoration everybody has. It's just very basic. And it started like that out of necessity in the pandemic. And I kept it like this really on purpose because I really fell in love with this idea of staying small as a company and keeping things really lean and simple. And I got as excited about this, and people kept on asking me about why I'm working this way, that I wrote a little guidebook. It's very much a handbook about building, launching, and growing your own digital products as a company of one. And because if you think about it, it's really the first time in history that we can actually do that. And the thing that we're focusing on a lot is this digital product part. So the new technologies, the new AI tools, what's happening, in Figma, we've seen a lot happening just 2 weeks ago. And we're becoming really good at adapting at this, at analyzing this. But I think what we'll talk very little about is this part. And for me, that is the on your own part. And what I mean by that is that with this shift in technology, we're not only changing what we're building, so not only the products, but we're also fundamentally changing how we can build these things, right? So we keep on thinking in these old structures of companies in the office or remote, but there are so many doors opening. And I believe by these doors being opened, a lot of us that don't even think that they could run a company or could build a product, they have the opportunity. And I don't think we look at this chance enough. So I found my happy place in something called solopreneurship. And to be honest, I didn't even know that was a thing. And when I started giving these talks about this topic, I usually just talk about design and Figma and aligning design with code. But this was something I was so happy about, so I really wanted to share it. And I always called the talk solopreneurship. But I noticed over time that it's actually not that much about it. It's much more about feeling empowered and building something. And it could be a full-time job, it could be a part-time project. And I want to tell you a little bit what I think, how you can build, how you can get started. But in order for you to understand, I have to tell you a little bit how this happened for me. Because as most of these things do, it all happened by chance. So I was working as a UI freelancer, and when I got booked by startups, by companies, there was usually the design team and there was the development team. And I often found myself operating in this little area where they intersect. And that's really an area that is full of friction. It's full of problems, misunderstandings, but it's also full of opportunities. As soon as you understand why these things are happening and you lean into each other's tools and work, and also into, I think what we heard in the last talk, a lot mind frame, like then you start understanding on how you can solve these things. And so when the pandemic hit, and as a freelancer, I suddenly had a little more free time than I thought. I put all of these findings in an online course, which was something I always wanted to do, but never had the courage and the time to just take the time off to do so. And I put that course online, and within a few weeks it went viral, and I could literally live off that course. This is usually the nice moment when there's an audience, and I put on the next slide and I tell you that this is all a lie. But the funny thing is, when I put that slide, is this is what you expect, right? You expect this thing, and it went viral and fell into place, and this overnight success. But a lot of the time, these stories, how they happen, and when they're this building and making things is a little quieter, it can be equally as fulfilling, but it's just not as loud. So there was growth, but it was really slow and steady. It meant that the more I put in there, the more I got out of it. But I really had to put in effort. But I saw this, I saw it happening, but very, very gradually. But what I noticed is that this area I was operating in was really interesting, not only to me, but it was actually really useful. Because as designers, we're always stuck in the middle. So if we understand what's happening left and right, so if we understand a little bit what is happening in UX, and also most importantly, which we neglect a lot of the time, how does this later come alive in code? Not for us to code it, but in order for us to understand and communicate better, then our products are so much better and our team is working so much better. And most important, what I noticed when I was building this product around a subject that I was truly passionate about in a way that I really enjoyed, and it was my own product, for the first time in my life, I think, I got up in the morning and I was really excited to be working and to be polishing this. And this has really lasted until today. And I'm very, very grateful about it, because I definitely had other scenarios of work in my life. But what also happened is that when people noticed that it was no longer a side project, that there were substantial financial returns, and I was started to live off this, they asked a question and they gave me advice. And it was always the same. It was like, so you're going to hire people now, you're going to turn this into a real company, right? Somewhere even like maybe you can get funding, this could be a real thing. And they started introducing me as a founder. And I still have my issues with that word, not in general, but for myself, because I was like, well, I'm not a founder. I just like making these things, and I'm really glad if people enjoy them, and if I can sell this. But on the other hand, I also felt, oh, this is nice. People really see something larger in this, and they see me as equal to these people with funding and with these big companies and pitch decks and all that came with it. But when people noticed my hesitation around the subject, they meant well, and they encouraged me, and they were like, no, Christine, you can do that. You can be a founder. You just have to be a little bit bolder, just lean in, just be a bit brave, And there is something, that was this one here, that the problem that I saw, when I looked into this idea of being a founder, was that the only story that I heard and that I could find was this idea of, it's all about the funding, the growth, And the end goal, the fairy tale, if you make it, then it's the exit. And there's nothing wrong with that. For a lot of companies, for a lot of products, that's totally fine. And also a lot of products, they can't be built without that funding. They really need that funding and that growth in order to exist. But for my product, it didn't need that. And to be honest, I don't think I'd be particularly good in that sort of setup anyways. But because people encouraged me, there was something that happened, and there was something I didn't like. And it took me a while to figure out what it was. And the thing was that I felt that there only were shining lights on one way of building and one way of doing this apparently the right way. And the thing is, when we only shine light on one way, it becomes this glorified way. And then if you want to do it, if you want to build that product, you mold yourself to this idea to do it right. But just because you can make yourself fit in, it doesn't mean that you're in the right place. And if you're not in the right place, then you never fully thrive. Not you, not the product you're building, and not that poor team that you're trying to lead. And I believe that we're losing out on a lot of great ideas and a lot of really good entrepreneurs by people ending up being plates stuck in the drain when they really don't have to. Because with this shift in technology, we're not only changing what we can build, but we can open up the way in which we build it. So we're not losing out on anything. You know, the traditional startup way is still there, it's still very valid, but there are more ways that you can do this. And I think in the end, it's about feeling that sense of agency. So this feeling of independence and being in control over your work and your career. I think that's something very powerful. And I think that also happens at very different places in the spectrum for each of us. So I can't tell you where this is, but I can tell you where I found it. And it's a quieter way of building. It's maybe a little more of a humble way of building, but I think it's equally as relevant as the rest. And it's really good fun as well. Because I think in this time and age, if you want to build your own product and run your own product, then all you need to do is three things. You need to reframe the picture in your mind of what it means. You need to build the thing, and you need to grow it. And it sounds a little oversimplified, but for a lot of products, it can actually be quite simple. So let's have a look. So the reframing. Now, the reframing, funny enough, I thought that was the fluffy side thing I didn't want to talk too much about. But when I wrote the book, this is where I get the most feedback and where people tell me this is the moment I got started, which actually really surprised me. So the thing is, when you want to build that way, you need to flip the switch in your head and you need to change the story. So what if you build something that you enjoy making so much, that fits so well into your life, that it scales with you and not away from you? Then you probably don't even want to sell this. And then suddenly, not the funding, but the time is your most important tool. Now, my days, they used to look like this. Anyone could jump in my calendar and put a meeting. And again, there's nothing wrong with meetings. You need them. They can be really good. They can be really productive. But I'm a designer and I like making things. And I cannot make good quality work in these tiny little time slots I was given, you know. And I think also what we had in the last talk, it depends a lot of how you function. My brain just doesn't function like this. I can't go in a meeting and then come out and then work for an hour and then go back in. I need, in order to do good quality work, I need time and I need focus. So by being just me, I now have the whole day. This is how I personally structured my day, and this might look very different for you. And this is how I work best. If I have the whole day, I focus and I can really get in there. There's no Slack channel. I really keep emails to an absolute minimum. I do have meetings, but I put them at the beginning and the end of the day if they're very important. And most days I don't even have meetings. And I finally returned to this joy of making. And I think this is something that we all have deep inside of us. And I think it's quite funny because you see it when people take some time off, they suddenly start doing DIYs, they start painting their house or renovating things. And they have so much joy in that. And they're so proud of what they made. And I think that is something in us. It's like a little child building a tower or drawing a picture and showing you. I think there is just something in us. And for a long time, I personally had forgotten about it because I was just managing the machine rather than the product. Just adjust this a little bit here for you. It's falling off my camera. So I'm not going to lie to you. It's not like it's a constant state of flow that we're in. You need to figure things out. You know, there is no team There is no tech expert, there is no HR. If there is a problem, you need to go and you need to fix it. So that means you need to Google it, you need to ChatGPT it, and trust me, I've called Stripe customer support so many times, they might be sending me a birthday card next time. But the great thing is that when you work like this, you start understanding that you can actually do that you can figure it out. And in the beginning, it's this vague thing where you just have to believe that you can do it. But then when you do it over and over again, suddenly it becomes like a little proof of concept. And then you think, well, there is something there and I can do this. And I think this is really where confidence is built. It's not that I always thought that you need that sort of confidence, to start to run a product, start a company, that you're just born with it. And that's why you can do it. But I think now it's the other way around. By doing it and by having these little hurdles that nobody sees, this is where you start believing and you start figuring out that you can do it. And I think this is working as a company of one really powerful, because you can do it away from all the noise in your own time. When you work like this, you have to just in motion. You don't have money for a business plan or market research. You literally just build something that you think is going to work and people are going to like, and you put it out there and you see what happens. And trust me, everything happens, but the thing that you thought was going to happen happens. So you have to adapt to these things. And this can also be something very beautiful. But for example, for me, this is the hardest part still. So not all of this is going to come natural to you, but you can push it a little and then it works. Also, when you think of this, you have to change the way in which you look at earning with products, because we're always told to look at the revenue. And the revenue in a funded startup and the revenue in a solo venture, you cannot compare that. For us, the measurement is the profit margin. And that is really impressive in a lot of solo ventures, a lot of the time way above 90%. And the reason is that when you're building this way, you don't want another expensive hobby. So you're going to keep costs really low. And the thing is, if you're building, I'm later going to show you some tools. If you're building this way, it can be incredibly cheap, because you building it, you're using these new technologies, so you can keep it really flat. And then even though you only have this really small growth, it's really worth your while, because this is all yours to keep. So an example, I run Moon Learning, and it costs me, like the fixed cost beside, there's variable costs like Stripe costs and things like that, is 324 euros right now. And it might vary a little bit, but not majorly. So you can see that it's very cheap. And also there's not a high risk to entering this market and to build something. The thing you probably say now is, well, but if I build something, how am I going to get the visibility? How am I going to get this? To be honest, I have absolutely no idea. I am really not a good example for clever funnel marketing and strategies. My personal way is that I write articles, I make videos, some are free, some are paid. I write the book, I put out some free stuff, and it's 1,000 little steps. And I really can't tell you which one leads to things being noticed or not. But I think if you're just taking them, if you're taking that first step, then it does lead to visibility. And I can give you a little funny anecdote. So this was an article I wrote, I think 3 or 4 years ago. And it was really something I thought absolutely nobody would ever read. It was about why designers should understand RAM units, root size and blocking it and not blocking it. And it was a really niche thing that I personally enjoyed playing with and understanding as a designer. I put it out there, and I think it is up till today the most read article I've ever had. I don't know how many, a few 100,000 views. And people got so excited about it that someone made a playlist, which is called Pictogram, and it has Pixie songs and REM songs. So it got a little out of hand. But this article, it was also something that Vitaly from Smashing, where we're here today now, read. He contacted me, and I got in touch with his lovely team, and we started running workshops on design and Figma. And from there, they asked me if I don't want to do some talks, which was something I never ever thought about in my life, to go on a stage. They babysat me 3 years ago to go on the stage the first time. I was very, very nervous. And since then, I thought I'm going to do this once and then never, ever again. And since then, this has become a big part of my life. And I've been doing conferences since the past year in different countries. And I met all the people I admire from far away online. And it's been such a nice addition to my work that I never, ever thought of and would have never dared to do. And so I think it is about that. If you go out there, if you share your passions, there is no magic, it's not like you do one thing and then it's just all going to be in place. But things do happen, but people need to know about the stuff that you're passionate about and how you write, who you are, how you express yourself. And I think that can be very powerful. So yeah, if you've done the reframing in your mind, you might be saying, okay, so what am I going to build? So I'm talking about digital products because if you're one, it makes much more sense than a physical product. But digital products could be anything, could be a website, could be an app, could be absolutely anything, a downloadable product. You don't need to be a designer, you don't need to be a developer. But the thing that I feel really strongly about, whatever you build, own the core. And if you take away today one thing, then please let it be this one. Because I strongly believe that you should not be outsourcing the heart and the soul of what you're building. And I see that all the time. People get some money together and then they get an external developer to build this. And then they take it on and they want to run it. And it can work. But if you're just one person, you're outsourcing all of your power, all of your superpowers, like being fast, being in control, keeping it cheap, keeping cost low. So don't get the developer, don't get the market expert, just dive in there and just build something simple, get started, get your hands dirty and just get it out there. Now, if you know how to code, that's an easy one. You can just build your own product. But even if you don't know how to code, you live in a great time and there are all these great tools out there that can help you to do so. So you can really learn how to code and you can build, and I'm really talking about simple products here. We're not talking about anything that's sensitive with data or, nothing critical systems, small little products. You can totally build them yourselves with these products. The one I would recommend you to get started, Manus is really amazing as well, Repl as well, but I'm a huge fan of Cursor and I'm not a developer. And when you look into Cursor, so the first thing, I hope this works here. Yeah, so the first thing you see these sort of videos and then you're like a designer or not even a designer. And you look at that and you're like, oh my God, I'm not getting anywhere close there. This is like for developers. But you can use these tools very differently. So if you use Cursor, it's like, it's based on an LLM, basically. So you can just type in what you're doing. So you say, I want to just set up a website. Like, how does it work? You can have like a human conversation with it. And you say, how does this work? How can I set this up? And it's going to guide you. And if you don't understand something, you highlight it. And then you ask Cursor, what does this do? Why is this thing here? How can I connect a database? You can start with simple things like, I want people to sign up with MailChimp. How do I connect this? And it will tell you and it will guide you. I would recommend that if you want to do that you have a little bit of the basics, at least of HTML and CSS. And that stuff is not difficult. So this is all free resources. This is a 6-minute YouTube video to explain HTML, CSS and how it goes together to build a very basic page. And you will get the principles. And if you get the principles and then dive into Cursor, you can build just your own landing page. And that already feels so powerful if you've never done that before. There's also an article if you prefer reading. So as I said, take a screenshot. This is all free resources. If you say, well, I don't want to code, then you can use no-code solutions. And they're really, really good. And they're becoming better every day. Figma, 2 weeks ago, just launched sites. I know there's some controversy about it, but it's being improved. There's a lot of effort put into it. There is other tools like, for example, I use Kajabi to run my entire platform. So I did not code my platform. It all runs on no-code solutions. And I just got into editing videos and learned how to edit videos. And I do that on the little desk you saw at home. That's the microphone you hear right now. There's nothing else. There's no studio. There is just Kajabi, me and my microphone and my screen. So you can really use these tools. And if you want to build something, then do a little bit of research because it's very likely that something that you want to build, someone already gave you the tool to do so you can focus on the content. Whatever you do, because of these constraints, you're going to keep it simple. But that's actually a good constraint because if it's a simple product, you're incredibly fast. So you can just build a product, you put it on the market. If you see a chance, you can pivot overnight. You don't need to ask someone, no stakeholders, no politics, nothing. You just do whatever you want to do with it. And you can notice that something that I call satellite products are appearing. So that means when you start building, suddenly people become interested in stuff that you never even thought was relevant. And it's a very lovely and dynamic field. If you feel comfortable social media, I'm not so much on social media, but if you do feel so comfortable on social media, this is really great. You can really interact with people. They ask you for features, for things. It's really fantastic. And you're probably going to end up with something that is more like a mini portfolio rather than that one product that you started off with. So let me give you an example. For me, I started off with Moon Learning, and that's still my main product and my main focus. But people became really interested in the way that I'm working. So I wrote solo, first some articles, and then it ended up being a whole book. And that led to more conference talks and to different things. And while I was writing solo, I was researching these new tools, and I also came across some tools that I didn't know of. And so right now with Replit and Manus, I went back more into coding, and I'm building a platform called prettycheaphouses.com. You can see the landing page and get some more info if you're interested. And this is using image recognition to find affordable homes for renovation across right now across Europe. And so it's like little hidden gems, you know, the little cabin in the woods and by the lake that you can renovate, and it's below a certain price, which is something that I personally really enjoy. And it allows me to dive into those tools, which I really like more. So if you've done that, then how do you grow this without hiring? Well, the first thing is that at least most of the products or some of the products in this little more mini portfolio that you've been building, they need to decouple time and money. If you're selling 1 hour of your work for X amount of money, that's freelancing, that's totally fine, but you can't automate it. So if you want to automate it, then you have to decouple time and money. If you can do that, then, you know, automating it always sounds a bit evil, but all we're doing is that we're freeing our time because we want to go back to this. We want to go back to this focusing really on our work and really building that stuff. Now, again, if you know how to code, that's quite straightforward for you. If you don't, and I only use this, I use Zapier. There are other tools out there. You can automate with tools that are no-code tools. You can connect different APIs. You can set up all these automations. So, for example, my big thing is always, you know, student signs in. So I need to sign them in. I need to send an invoice. I need to send them an email, and, you know, all these little things in the background. I might want to add them to a chart I have. And I automated, I set it all up in Zapier, and then it's going to fulfill the task as soon as someone signs in, which is the trigger. So you can literally automate like anything and connect pretty much any APIs these days. Now, if you want to grow, then you can use AI, and I think it's very useful to grow. Whenever I mention AI, I already see people like either rolling their eyes or being all excited about it. And I'm really sorry, because this is neither, because it's not the big thing that you're going to think is going to come now. So let me explain. So that was my favorite movie when I was little, Back to the Future, kid of the 80s. And Marty McFly, he travels to the future, and there is cool stuff like hoverboards. But this is actually my favorite scene, watching it from today's point of view, which is in the future, all the live communication is happening with fax machines. And this is how we imagined the future in the 80s. You know, we didn't know all of what's going to come. And it's the same for me if I tell you about AI and growing products. My AI is just a fax machine. I can't tell you any cutting edge things that you've never seen before and that's going to wow you. It's pretty standard stuff. But the thing is that it makes a huge difference if you're just one person. So the LLMs, I use them all the time. Like literally, I don't even know how to live without them anymore. But I don't create my content with LLMs. What I do is that they add incredible speed. And for example, writing the book, we heard that before, the hurdles that you have because of the person you are. I am dyslexic. So for me, writing, I always really enjoyed writing, but I'm dyslexic. So it's tied to a lot of shame, because when you put out stuff there's typos. So I always needed someone to edit it and to correct it. And so it was something that, you know, it wasn't worth my while. It felt I was always a bit scared, you know, people are going to call out the typos. And so now it's really amazing. I can write, and I write in my own way, in my own style. So if you read articles, you're going to notice that this is me speaking, but the LLMs, they really help me to overcome, you know, it's like a little crutch to help me do these things. And I use them for other stuff. But I always guide them. I am the one in control. I am the one with the knowledge about this subject. I'm the UI designer here, but it's helping me to just move way faster. Also, when you're working like this, you're most likely going to be operating in niche markets. And in these niche markets, not everybody is going to speak your language. Or maybe you want to have content in English, but you have an accent, or you're not so sure about your English, so you want to have that. And there are great tools out there. So I'm gonna take them off because there's some sound. So I hope that works. If there's a problem, then please tell me. I have the chat smashing team here. So this is the tool that I'm using. There are different tools out there that you can use. KGen is one. And the important part is that it translates the videos, but it's not about the translation. Is quite straightforward. It's about keeping the sentence length the same, because if you're having different languages in the video, it needs to fit and still keep the content. So that's a tricky bit. It also, in the background, it clones my voice because my personality, who I am, that's a big part of the courses. So I want to keep that in any language. And again, there is a lot of ethical concerns around that. Absolutely. That's not part of my talk today. In this case, it's my content, it's my voice. So in this case, it's an advantage for me. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to play this in English. I hope that works and you can hear it.
Did you know that you can link Figma to a spreadsheet and not only pull in real information, but also swap components and instances? Let me show you.
So that's just me recording the original, and then you have here the Spanish version.
Did you know that you can link Figma to a spreadsheet?
And sorry, that's still English. Here we go. I was like,
¿Sabías que puedes vincular Figma a una hoja de cálculo y no solo extraer información real, sino también intercambiar componentes e instancias? Deja que te lo enseñe.
So another thing is that I want to show you, this isn't out yet. This is something I'm working on currently. So as I said, I want you to take the courses in your own time and to your own liking, but I don't know where you jump in. You might jump in right here in the middle and might have forgotten something, or taking it, half a year later. Also, I have more content. I have articles, files, YouTube videos. It's a whole little universe that I created, how I, Christine, like to teach UI design and Figma to you. So in the course, however, it's quite a linear experience. It's a classic course setup. So I thought, and this is something I'm experimenting with right now, if I take the voice cloning and then I have my own little chatbot, then you could just talk to me because you're already listening to my voice. So this is a little mock-up what I think this will look like.
So it's important that we then use all these styles and variables in our components.
What is a Figma component?
A component is a reusable design element and can be used across multiple designs for easy updating. We covered this in video 4:2:11. You might have missed it. Do you want me to play it again? And I also have a more detailed article about this topic you might like.
So, it's nothing you haven't seen before. It's a bit of chatbots, it's a bit of LLMs, it's a bit of voice cloning. But for me, it makes a huge difference of who I can reach and what I can build as a company of one. If you're not saying, oh, I like that, I want to have my own digital product, but what on earth am I going to be building? Well, there's usually two kinds of people. There's the ones that say, I have no idea at all. And there's the others that say, my idea is so brilliant, I'm not even going to tell you because you're going to steal it. Now, for the brilliant ones amongst you, I have bad news. There are 8 billion people in the world. So the chances that someone already had your idea and already executed it is really high. And that's the good news for the uninspired ones amongst you. It really doesn't matter. Just pick anything that you like and just get started. Also get this idea out of your head that you're going to be the best. You don't even have the money to be the best. I don't make the world's best online courses. Well, maybe I do, but So think of it more like a cookbook or just any book. If you go to a bookstore, you don't go in there and you say, I want to have the world's best book, please. You go in there and you find something that resonates with you. And if all of us now go into a bookstore, all of us are going to come out with a different book. And that's really, really beautiful if you think about it. And it works exactly the same here. The tricky part is finding that audience that if you build a high quality, good product that it resonates with. But that takes time. So keep it simple, make something and just see what happens. And even if you find that audience, it's still the internet. So here are 2 reviews I got same day. This is actual screenshots. I think they were like a few hours apart. So the first one reads, this is a well-organized course that is delivered in a professional manner. I feel confident to start designing in Figma now. Also, I must say the teacher has an incredibly soothing voice. Thank you. She's a great teacher, but she could also have a career doing voiceovers. Second one, this voice sounds fake, like an Alexa voice, very annoying. Also, the pacing of the lessons is very slow. Whatever you do, if you do something wrong, if there's a bug, I can fix it. If I got something wrong, I make it better. If there's people that my work resonates with and others that it doesn't, then I focus on the one that it works for. And that works pretty well in life in general, I noticed. So that was my story, my little ray of light. I really hope you enjoyed it. As I said, I don't know where you are and all of that. Maybe you're already in your happy place. But if you ever feel like your plate stuck in the train, then please choose that. And if you have the luxury to choose your work, then please use it, because it's actually a very, very small amount of the population that is able to do so. And it's a huge privilege. So just try it out. The generation before us, they needed a garage to build something. And all you need is the cheapest desk from IKEA. If you want to know more about this, then make sure that you follow me on LinkedIn or the solar.io or moonlearning.io. Thank you so much. I'm going to put my headphones back on and I'm ready for the questions.
Oh my gosh, how wonderful was that? So much fodder in there and inspiration for. I mean, I just kept seeing people in the chat being like, this resonates with me so much. So thanks for that, because you're really showing that there's a creative spark that, like, really resonates with other people, and that we can do this stuff, systematically, even as a team of one. That's really fascinating, just how powerful we can be as solopreneurs in this day and age. And as you were talking, I felt like I was really, understanding the heart of what you're saying, where solo work and staying small is not only possible, but can be a viable career path. I personally struggle with my time and feel responsible for so many things, both big and small, as a solo, worker. I feel like I have lots of responsibilities that I'm divided, I'm fractionalized in lots of ways. How do we know what not to do? Because when is it beneficial to consider delegating responsibilities without giving up the core of what we do? Because you mentioned that core is really important, but we also can't do everything, right? Like how do we know what to give up?
I mean, maybe I should also say that, because this is how I like doing it. I mean, it doesn't mean that, 5 years down the road, maybe I say, but if I had one more person doing this and that, then it will be much better. So it's like you're not signing a contract. Yeah. Like you're never allowed to do anything. So you can really just take it as things come and as you feel comfortable. I think owning the core, what I mean by it is like that you're in control of the main product. If you're saying I'm outsourcing marketing, I don't do my bookkeeping myself, for example. If you're outsourcing your marketing, or if you're outsourcing something that makes sense, I think that is completely fine. I think at the moment where it gives you more joy to give it away than it annoys you to organize it. Sometimes I was organizing people so much, and I was like, I'd much rather do it myself. And some stuff I just don't do. And also some stuff I completely over-engineer little details that in a workplace, people would never let me do that. They'd be like, are you out of your mind? But I just like it. Maybe it doesn't even make a difference, but it just keeps me motivated and just keeps me going. So I think it's just very personal. And when you notice that you're overwhelmed, then either cut down or just give it away. And just keep it simple. Sometimes I cut back the website. I have to cut back Moon Learning. That's the hardest bit, because it keeps growing. And then I just cut it. It's like a jungle, and I'm just cutting it back and making it simpler again.
It's almost like a whack-a-mole for you, right? You're constantly hitting the little atrophy. Nope, I'm growing. Nope, down.
So no, only growing in students, that's always fine. But it's like sometimes it's like I'm sometimes thinking, if I don't even understand what's going on anymore, then someone entering the platform, they want a really simple. Most people want a simple experience when they consume a product or a service, and we sometimes over-engineer it. It's like when you work in Figma, there's all these great features, and then I see people completely over-engineering their files, and it's like sometimes it's just fine. It's like you don't need to show off your Figma skills. You just need to make a workable file for everybody.
I think that's such a universal challenge that we all face, is knowing when is enough, and that actually dovetails real nicely with a comment that was posted in the chat there, where someone said, the beauty of solopreneurship or freelancing contracting is that only you get to define what enough is, and in my experience, the independence that you get from working solo is a great perk, and many people see that as a great perk. But what downsides are there to working alone that someone interested in working solo or developing, like a digital product themselves, what should they consider, that like that they might not know that they're signing up for?
I mean, I think it's very much you need with what Jason talked about before. You need to know your personality, and for a lot of people, this is definitely not the path. And I think the funny thing was we saw that during COVID. You were in the same household, and half of the household was like, "This is amazing." I was like, "This is amazing. I love this," And obviously, the being alone, not the other side of it, but. And then some people they got really depressed and they got really upset about it. And there's nothing wrong. I think it's just different energy, how you function, how you work. And I think it's more about that. What I said is like on the spectrum, you need to understand how you tick. So if you're someone that thrives with social interaction, then don't work solo because you're going to be really upset. But for example, I like my social interaction after work. I don't want that to touch my work. And I then have a lot of energy. I spend the whole day alone building, and then I have lots of energy for my family, my kids, and my friends. I hope they agree. And but I prefer working solo, and you need to understand that. But if you're someone who thrives on connection, then don't work solo.
This is so fascinating because I think that there's a really nice and huge overlap between what you shared about solopreneurship and what Jason has shared about discovering our identities.
Completely, yeah.